Okay, great. Welcome. So this evening now, because we're now doing our lives on Monday evenings, we're going to be talking about empathy. Right?
Yeah, in a committed relationship.
Right.
And we know that people, when they first get together in that early juicy stage of being in a romantic stage of relationship, is that it's very easy to be empathetic with the person. It's a natural feeling that just comes over people.
Yeah, you sort of know one another, right? It's instinctual, or at least you believe you do. Right? I know what you feel. I know how you feel that way, as though that is real. And of course, it feels delicious, as you said. I think you said juicy.
Yeah, juicy.
Yeah, it is juicy.
Yeah.
And then in very quick order, and we know that can be anywhere from 2 minutes to 2 years, we move into the next stage of relationship called the power struggle. And in the power struggle, which can last a very long time, empathy is much harder to access at times, not always and not for everyone, but at times. And defensiveness often takes its place.
Yeah, it's very much a struggle for somebody to stay empathetic, because what they are is they're very concerned that they have to defend themselves when they feel their partner is um, bringing a position that is different than their own to the conversation.
Yeah, there's fear involved, right?
Yeah, definitely fear, anxiety, just this real sense of wanting to ensure that you get heard and that your position is taken into consideration in the relationship itself.
Well, and I would add that, especially because in the power struggle, what we
Mhm.
know is happening is that each person within the relationship is working to get their own needs met. So they believed that was going to happen in a kind of, what did you call it? In a juicy, joyful way at the first part of the relationship when they first connected and were in loving connection. And then when that feels like it's either fading or came to an abrupt stop or it's less accessible, then this whole idea that, wait a minute, do you not know who I am? And I'll have to tell you who I am and defend against the things you feel, want, think, say. And that starts to take over, really.
Right. And Brene Brown has talked about this in terms of the differences between being sympathetic versus empathetic. And empathy really involves being perceptive and taking on the perspective of, boy, it's hard to say those two things at once, but being taking the perception of
the
what
perspective.
Yeah, of the perspective of the other person. And it is very difficult for us to cross over and see things from the other person's perspective.
Sometimes we feel as though we're going to give up part of who we are, right? If I lean into who Tim is, if I lean into you, honey, and I say, oh, yeah, I totally get that.
Yeah.
That makes sense. You make sense. And I know you in that way.
Right.
And, there may be a part of me that is afraid that if I do that, it means I'm agreeing with you.
Right.
And I'm not necessarily agreeing. I'm not signing up for anything.
No.
What I'm doing is signing up for feeling into what it is that you're experiencing.
Right. And, Anna is actually very, very good at doing that. But I think for a lot of people, it's very difficult because we become judgmental. Culturally, it's something that we have learned to do in circumstances. And what we want to do is listen to our partner and not judge them.
Yeah. And again, I think both the judgment and the defensiveness, I hear you saying that I'm very good at this, at empathy, and I am, unless we're in conflict, and then I can be not so good at it.
Right.
But I do have a kind of natural way of going there. And I do think, again, that judgment that you're describing, which I think you're kind of owning,
right,
that judgment or that defensiveness is a protection mechanism.
Right.
And the safer that you feel in relationship with me,
right,
the less likely that you're going to need to move into that. The more you know I have your back, the more you trust that I have your back,
right,
the more that you could lean into feeling with me.
Right. So that I'm not going to lose myself in the by perceiving something from your viewpoint,
Mhm.
I am not going to actually lose myself in that and be giving away wholeheartedly to whatever is upsetting or concerning you.
Yeah, you're not going to lose yourself. And there's a lot of work that we're doing with couples where we're reimagining relationship where the self is less central. And we
Right.
understand that we're simply connected. We are energetically connected. We influence how we each show up.
Right.
And so that self, that differentiated I am me and you are you and never the twain shall meet is actually mythology. We're living in a connected and interconnected energetic space. And within that, you really have nothing to lose because the more that you feed it, the more you will have come back to you. And I will still see you as different than me. That's pretty easy to do. I mean, we're differentiated, but connected.
Right.
And so it's less about a fight for the self. And I appreciate you saying that because I think that is where we all come from. What about am I going to lose my autonomy?
Right. Right.
Or be persuaded to do something I don't want to do. Or if you, Anna, asked me to consider your experience, your perspective, your desires, are you going to then not make space for mine?
Right. That's right.
And I guess what you and I have been teaching, and we learn as we go, right? Is this awareness that the more that we offer one another what we most desire, the more that feeds the space between, the more it feeds us, the more we grow.
Right. Yeah.
And kind of change.
And I think it's an important piece of this is what is in the Imago dialogue process is that both partners get to be heard. They also get to have their hearing, say what they want to say, but they also want to be heard so that you're actually both feeding into the middle ground and into your relationship. So you're both conscious of what the other person is hearing.
And another piece of this is context. So I'm sort of, if I'm going to just add another piece in, which is that in empathy and expressing empathy, which is a really heart-centered act, to be empathetic, it comes from the heart, not just the head, the connection, right? That connectedness. And we need to remember, sorry, excuse me, I'm going to have a sip of water. That empathy is about remembering who your partner is and their context, where they come from, what their story is, what you know about them as a person, how they're wired, what their nervous system is like, why they might need to defend. And so if we can hold space, and the more we do deep work or the more we do knowing work, conscious work, the more we can hold space for that awareness of the complexity of who our partner is. So there's the difference between saying, yeah, I gotcha, I getcha. And, oh, wait a minute. I know that when, in my awareness, whether I would say this or not, I know that when you were little and you had an opinion, it was very often heard and then negated.
Right.
And so when I ask for your opinion or I want your input, like I do in this next travel experience that we're beginning to vision together, it makes sense that you're a little anxious to put it in there. Because what if you present your position, your feelings, your ideas, and I negate them?
Right.
And you want to be reassured, I'm guessing, that I'm going to really hear and value your perspective.
Right.
So that's context, right? I know him and I know where he comes from. And that increases empathy. I'm assuming that will feel somewhat empathetic to you.
Yeah, it does. Another aspect of that too is that it's not, empathy is not sort of riding in on the horse and saving the day and making everything perfect for your partner also. A lot of times, we feel that one of the things that we need to do is that we need to solve a problem for the other person, that we need to actually resolve what's going on. And really, in many ways, that's not what empathy is. And that's not what we're really looking for our partners to do. We want them to hear us, We want them to know that they somehow are emotionally being able to connect with us. And, like Anna says, is that when we're actually trying to discuss something, we're both being aware of how the other person might be feeling.
I really appreciate you saying that. It is such an inherent kind of natural place to problem solve or fix things or make it better or make the problem disappear.
Right.
And what we've learned through this work together is that when we lean into the conflict, the problem, the challenge, even if it's not negative, a challenge, when we lean into it with curiosity, with openness, with empathy, all kinds of cool things happen. Like we grow our connection, defensiveness melts away. And in many cases, if we do acknowledge that there's some kind of, problem, it melts because we are in connection. In connection, empathy breeds connection. It enhances connection, and defensiveness or problem solving or all those other mechanisms we use can increase disconnection.
Right. Absolutely. And so it really comes down to awareness. Once you see that you have some emotional awareness of where your partner's at and why they may be feeling the way they're feeling, then what you can do is that increases the connection that you have with them. And it actually strengthens your bond and allows you to see your partner more completely. Not necessarily the whole shebang, but it's you certainly get to see them a lot more clearly.
And we all long to feel seen and understood and known, because when we are, we just, that's really the beautiful part of being in relationship. And it enhances all of the juicy stuff you talked about at the beginning, only even more deeply with the knowing that comes from long-term committed partnerships. So you can practice it early on when you're first together, but it is a great thing to return to it and learn how to express empathy in a way that your partner can feel you as you continue to grow in your connection with one another. So I'm sure this is a conversation we'll continue to have because we're practicing it and learning more as we go.
Right.
But we thank you for joining us to learn a bit more about empathetic expression and connection.
Thank you.